Coming up in this episode, I spend the day on the Greek island of Rhodes, where I have a wonderfully relaxing time as I explore the old town and the waterfront at my own pace on a DIY shore excursion. Good morning from Rhodes. It is day 4 and we docked at 7 o'clock this morning. So it's currently just after 9. I'm having a lazy start to the day. I've been to Rhodes a few times before, including for land-based trips. So really just going to explore around Rhodes town today. The wind of the last few days has definitely calmed. It's perfectly still today. Looks like it's going to be a really lovely day. Temperature is due to get up to about 32 degrees and it's already very, very hot. Because I had such a leisurely start to the day, I was pleased to find that the Horizon Court buffet was almost empty by the time I went up there to enjoy a very leisurely breakfast. Now, given that it was already quite hot outside, I actually chose to eat inside in the air-conditioned comfort. Although there are plenty of outdoor seating areas, some of which you'll see here, that's partially covered and shaded at the aft of the ship. Now, from the aft and over towards the starboard side, it provided a really good chance to get my bearings as I looked out towards the fortified walls of the old town where I planned on spending the day. Disembarking in Rhodes is pretty straightforward. It's a very easy walk from the ship to the port gate, and from there it's only about 5 minutes on foot to one of the main entry points into the old town. Now, as I take you along on this walk, here's some useful information about the island of Rhodes. It's one of the larger of the Greek islands, and it's very well known to Europeans as one of Greece's most popular summer holiday islands. It offers a wide range of tourist accommodation, including many wonderful 5-star resorts. It has beautiful beaches and plenty of history in historic towns and villages, and rich culture. Parts of the island are also known for pretty high-intensity nightlife party atmosphere. The capital of the island is the town of Rhodes, where we are today, and within close proximity of the cruise port is, as I mentioned, the old town. That's a medieval fortified walled town, and adjacent to that there's also the new town. Now, the old town itself is considered to be one of the best preserved medieval towns in Europe, and it is designated as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. On exiting the port gate, it's a simple case of turning right and following the boardwalk for the short walk to the entry gate to the old town. Now, for anybody who may be keen to explore further afield around the island, particularly if you're doing it independently, the buildings opposite the port gate actually accommodate several transport options, including car rental and moped hire. There's also a stop for the hop-on hop-off bus which goes around the outer environs of Rhodes, and that's also quite close to the cruise port gate. You can see from this glance back towards the cruise ship that there really is such a short distance between it and the entry point to the old town. Now, once inside the walls of the old town, there is an extensive network of streets and lanes, and as I had no particular plan of what I wanted to see, I was just happy to spend my time having a leisurely stroll and exploring slightly off the beaten track, finding some streets and alleyways that I hadn't actually happened to experience on my previous visits to Rhodes. One of the most prominent landmarks at the particular entry point that I enter the old town by is the ruins of a Catholic church which dates from the 14th century. You can just wander through this area and there's no admission required. If historic buildings and medieval ruins aren't your thing, there's still plenty more to explore around the old town. It has a vast selection of restaurants and bars and a multitude of souvenir shops. It also has a large amount of stores selling more quality goods, particularly leather goods. So you can shop to your heart's content for genuine leather footwear, bags and clothing. And some are actually at very good prices. Now, the main thoroughfares can get pretty crowded and can be slightly hectic as restaurant owners vie for customers' attention, but definitely nothing on the scale of that situation in Turkey. You'll know what I mean if you've seen my previous vlog on that. So as I wandered off the beaten track down some of the narrower side streets, there was a much more relaxed atmosphere, and also a few surprising discoveries along the way, including active archaeological sites. it gets considerably quieter off the beaten track of the commercial area. So I'd be happy to think these areas are pretty secure, safe to be wandering. There's holiday apartments and bars and restaurants tucked into every little nook and cranny. I made an interesting discovery which I hadn't found in any previous visit, and that was this library which was set into a lovely little courtyard. It had a number of very welcome shaded seating areas to rest and cool down. Entry to the library is free, but at the time of my visit there was actually only a portion of the building that was open, and in that area there were a number of documents on display which I understand are manuscripts of Arabic, Turkish and Persian origin. So as you can see, the area beyond that wasn't accessible at the time, but does seem to contain a lot more documentation. As I ventured back out onto the main thoroughfare, the medieval clock tower, which is one of the most prominent features of the old town, came into view. Now, that's located at what is described as being the highest point in the old town, and its origins are said to date back to the 7th century. Although the views from the top of the clock tower are meant to be pretty spectacular, shamefully I opted to give that a miss, and instead I sought out some ice cream for my lunch break. On days in port, when the ship and all of its dining options remains in close proximity, I really feel that it's a little bit of a waste of my exploration time to spend perhaps an hour or two having lunch on shore. I suppose this is also in part due to travelling solo, where a lunch experience can become a little bit boring if it's a little bit too drawn out. Now, to some people the footage coming up next may seem a little bit odd, but if like me you like to do a lot of research in advance of a trip and want to know what kind of facilities are in a location, here's some useful information. Public toilet facilities in the old town within the walls. It is paid, it's 50 cent piece, which needs to be inserted into a machine to automatically open the door. There is an attendant there. I don't know if she gives change, but just to be aware that it is, once you come in the door, up a flight of stairs. As I continued to explore the old town, my route took me on the western side of the Palace of the Grand Masters of the Knights of Rhodes. This is without doubt the most spectacular of all of the buildings within the old town. Now, I didn't visit the interior of the palace on this occasion, but it is certainly something worthwhile if you're visiting Rhodes for the first time and planning your independent shore excursion. The palace is open most days of the week, and it has fairly extensive hours during the summer season. Tickets can be purchased in advance online, or alternatively they can be purchased at the palace itself. There is an option within that purchase of a self-guided audio tour. Exiting the old town at one of the gates in the northwestern area, I headed towards the new town. Now, in this area, it's probably what I would describe as giving you an indication of everyday life on the island. It's got a normal range of your typical retail outlets, including some well-known brand name stores. It's got pharmacies, banks, cafes and various other businesses and offices and so on. So after feeling to a degree that the busier parts of the old town really represent tourism in overdrive, it's actually a nice slower pace to experience just regular everyday life on this Greek island in the new town. From the new town I headed across the road towards the waterfront, and this time I was going in the direction that would take me further away from the ship as I chose to explore further afield to check out a nearby beach. Now, all of the beaches in Rhodes are public, however quite a significant amount actually also accommodate beach clubs where there are sun loungers and beach umbrellas that can be hired. In order to actually get to the shoreline, I had to walk through one of those beach clubs, and as you can see, there's pretty limited space left for beachgoers who don't choose to pay for a sun lounger. Now, while there are some wonderful sandy beaches in other parts of the island, the main beach area here in the town of Rhodes definitely did not offer the soft golden sand that you might like. Definitely a lot of shingle and pebble on this beach.
So just to give you an indication of how far the beach is from the ship, in the distance there where the flags are is actually where the first access point is onto the beach. So you do have to walk through the beach club area to get onto the public area, unless you're actually going to rent a beach chair. Now, looking in the other direction, and just a quick walk along here, and we get our glimpse of the cruise ship. So it's really quite straightforward, and if you stay outside the walls of the old town and follow the path all along by the waterfront, you're essentially going to end up at this point. So very handy, very convenient, footpaths all the way, and nice scenery as well going along by the waterfront park. Down here on the waterfront, it feels like it's a million miles away from the crowds in the old town. Much more tranquil. So a nice breeze down here as well to cool down.
The walk back to the ship along the waterfront at Mandrake Harbour was really enjoyable. Now, as well as the promenade, there are also plenty of places to stop and sit and just watch the world go by. But you can also get a sense in this footage that there's a multitude of activities that you could book in the event that you were in this location and had plenty of time. There's things like glass-bottom boat rides, catamaran cruises, and there's also an opportunity for trips to some of the smaller islands such as Simi. Now, it's probably not something achievable if you have just a standard day in port, but perhaps if you had extended hours it might be something to consider. Opposite the waterfront is the new market building. Now, this is a fairly distinctive building and pretty much a landmark in this area. It's a seven-sided building which is of a kind of Arabic architectural style, but apparently it was built in the 1920s by Italians, so not quite sure what the background is on that. Now, I have to admit today I didn't bother to visit it. It wasn't someplace I particularly liked when I first visited it on my first trip to the island some years ago. Immediately to the left of the new market building there is a taxi stand. Now, although I wasn't actually availing of the taxi service, it was good to see that there is a clear pricing structure displayed for trips to various parts of the island. So if you want to pause the video here, it might be something to give you an idea of how you could consider perhaps organising an independent trip elsewhere on the island and the likely cost. And just to the rear of that is an entry point to the medieval moat which encircles the old town. On the opposite side of the harbour from the promenade, there's a long pier which accommodates 3 windmills, the windmills of Rhodes, and they are a really good stop for a photo opportunity. The windmills are thought to date from around the 14th century, and they are all that remains of what was up to 14 windmills that were believed to have been in this area, and they were used in the past to grind grain taken off ships at this location. Along the final stretch of the return walk to the ship, the small crescent-shaped sandy beach that was close by actually had become surprisingly busy since I passed it a few hours before that, with many people now actually out swimming in the water. Back on board, from the comfort of my balcony on the port side, it was interesting to spend some time watching all the maritime activity, including the departure of the Blue Star ferry, which is pretty synonymous with inter-island trips around the Greek islands. And shortly after that, the Majestic Princess was fully loaded and ready to depart, with the captain providing us with a pretty detailed explanation of his game plan for getting us out to sea and on to our next adventure.
The wind is blowing from right to left, so it's pushing off the dock. And as soon as the line will be aboard, we will going astern fast. We have to go astern about 500-600 meters, so it's about 3 ship length, if you like to know. And then we will swing bow to starboard and stand to port about 180 degrees. Then we start moving ahead, turning to port, going to the north of the Rhodes Island and set westerly course towards our next destination, that will be China, Crete.
Considering how calm it had been during the day, it was really surprising to find that very shortly after leaving port, while the town of Rhodes was still clearly in view, the weather changed quite considerably, with a very strong wind picking up, making it almost impossible to stay on the balcony in any degree of comfort. In any case, it was time to get ready for the evening. For me, it was a pretty low-key affair for the evening. I had a quick dinner in the Horizon Court buffet, and that was followed by attending the show in the main theatre. That was a guest performer called Jazz Danyan, and the name of his show was Equilibrium. I would say his act was a juggling act, but the proper description is that he was a balancing performer. In any case, it was different, it was enjoyable, and it's always good to get the opportunity on a cruise ship to see different acts and the skills that they bring. And in this case, his skill had apparently won him a number of world records. For me, the evening finished with some more time relaxing on the pool deck, although it was a little bit windy, and that was at Movies Under the Stars. And it was a case of watching Dirty Dancing for, it must be about the 100th time. So that wraps things up for this episode in Rhodes. I hope you'll join me next time round, where I will be coming to you from the island of Crete. If you enjoyed this, or if you found the information to be useful, please do consider hitting the like button. And if you want to stay up to date on when the next episode is coming out, please do consider subscribing. It would be really, really appreciated. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time in Crete. Bye for now.